evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, Nigerian Air Force says it's aware of possible location of Chibok girls. Army frees 275 persons detained on suspicion of involvement in terror activities in Borno State. The Sultan of Sokoto seeks urgent revamping of Nigeria's security architecture, urges quick action to tackle challenge of al-Majiris. And Syrian President Bashar al-Assad vows to retake all parts of the country from rebel forces. And in business news tonight, 5 consecutive sessions of gains. The Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index sustains bullish.
And in sports news, FIFA Ethics Committee slams a 12-year ban on Jerome Bulk for misconduct during his term as Secretary General.
I'm Linda Kibe, and from Abuja, security agencies intensify fight against pipeline vandals as Army rounds up several suspects in Imo State.
There seems to be another window for the Chibok girls to be found and rescued. That's because the Nigerian Air Force says it has been able to identify likely locations where the girls may have been kept. The director of our Air Force Public Relations, Group Captain Ayodele Famuyiwa, told Channels Television today in an exclusive interview that the Air Force is abstaining from attacking the area to avoid hitting the girls. He added that the latest aerial bombardment of Sambisa Forest has been aimed at strategic areas.
The Nigerian Air Force has been able to identify possible location where those girls may be, and of course, we abstain from those areas to make sure that those girls are not hit. And now, if you look at the clip that was released on the UAV has become a force multiplier for us because one, is cheaper to run those platforms. You're not putting men there, so the risk of maybe losing human beings is greatly reduced. Again, the UAVs have capability to be airborne for up to 11 hours, and it's quite cheap to maintain. So we've been able to employ the UAV to a great extent to carry out reconnaissance and surveillance, basically for intelligence gathering on the activities of the Boko Haram. The UAV has been able to assist us to know the pattern of their movement and then how to be able to counter them should they want to strike or maybe spring any surprise. By and large, we've been able to use the UAV largely to monitor them. Where the UAV struck was very far away from the location of those girls. So it's completely, yeah, it's not something that we have no fear that the girls are not there, because that particular location has been under surveillance for quite a while. And we suspected maybe it's a kind of ammunition depot or maybe a workshop that they are using as their logistics base. And once you take up the logistics base, of course, you gradually weaken the resolve of the enemy to be able to prosecute any campaign.
Director of Army Air Force Public Relations Group Captain Ayodele Famuyiwa. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Army has released 275 persons detained on suspicion of being involved in terrorist activities in Borno State. 49 of them are women, while 22 are minors. 2 Nigerian and 2 Cameroonians are also among those released. The Theatre Commander of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Hassan Umar, while handing over the detainees to the Borno State Governor, Kashim Shettima, said their release was in line with the principles of equity, justice and fairness. On his part, the Borno State Governor noted that vindicating the detainees is a testimony to the professionalism of the Nigerian Army and urged the freed suspects to assist in the fight against terrorism. The suspects were picked from various spots within and outside Maiduguri during the different raids 6 months ago.
Nigerians, and indeed all well-meaning citizens, that no individual will be unjustly and unduly incarcerated. We remain committed to the protection of the fundamental rights of every citizen of Nigeria and foreigners alike. I would also like to take this opportunity to solicit for greater understanding and cooperation of all in the ongoing war against terror, There is no gain in living in a country without peace. I am confident that the detainees being released today will act as our ambassadors and also clarify any misconception as to our conduct, modus operandi, and respect for human rights.
These 275 men were picked in several locations at different times and were adjudged to be clean after thorough investigation by the Nigerian army and are being released to the Borno State government for them to reunite with their families. This bears testimony, as I said earlier, to the fact that we are running a very professional force. Contrary to insinuations from several quarters, insinuating on extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detentions, and dehumanization of the citizenry. This is about the third or the fourth time we are receiving freed detainees to be reunited with their families. The Nigerian army deserves special kudos for the giant strides they are recording and for all the sacrifices they have been making for us to have peace in this part of the world.
Borno State's Governor Kashim Shettima on the released detainees. The Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Syed Abubakar III, is calling for a revamp of the Nigerian security architecture to improve on the nation's security. And he also notes that there is urgent need for government to address the problem of al-Majiris in the north, which he referred to as a source of worry to the entire nation. The monarch made the appeal in Abuja while addressing members of Course 24 of the National Defense College on the implications of traditional and religious institutions in national security.
The Sultan is both the special guest and the lecturer to address the audience on national security. First, the host and commandant of the National Defense College has the reason for the choice of both the lecturer and the theme of the lecture.
The nation is at the moment faced with terrorism and insurgency challenges where religion and to some extent beliefs somewhat interplay. Our esteemed speaker is one of very few Nigerians best suited for this discourse.
For the guest lecturer, bad leadership, which neglects the youth, is the root of societal insecurity. According to him, youths whose future are uncertain and disillusioned by the state always find justification for their rebellion.
It has been estimated that about half of the nation's population is 15 years and under. The neglect of this vital segment, however, cannot be without its dire consequences. Worst of all, recruitment and exploitation by extremist groups such as Boko Haram to achieve their nefarious objectives. For those uncertain about the future and disillusioned by state and society, the group accorded them the scriptural justification to rebel and to fight the society that they saw at the cause of their operation.
As the solution to overcoming security challenges, the monarch calls for urgent attention for the al-Majiri problem in the north, as well as revamping of the nation's security architecture.
The time may have come to revamp Nigeria's security architecture and reintegrate these councils into its matrix. We must, as a matter of urgency, tackle the al-Majiri problem, especially in the northeast and northwest regions of this country, which have been a great source of worry to all of us.
Lectures like this one are a regular part of training at the National Defense College. Organizers say the overall objective is to enable participants to be more productive when they return to their duty posts.
President Muhammadu Buhari has commended the Economic Community of Central African States for its support in winning the war against terror. The president says his administration will partner with the 11-member economic community to rid Nigeria and other neighboring countries of Boko Haram insurgents. Speaking at the State House in Abuja while receiving a message from President Obiang Nguema Mbasogo of Equatorial Guinea, President Buhari said he welcomes the initiative to organize a joint meeting between the ECCAS and ECOWAS. The meeting will focus on coordinating regional responses to the threat of terror in the Lake Chad Basin area. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Solomon Arase, has called on officers and men of the Nigerian police force to find sufficient evidence before putting suspects behind bars. The IG asked his men to stop the custodian approach to cases, but distinguish between criminal, civil and commercial cases. Mr. Arase said this in Kwara State while on a visit of police formations.
The Guard of Honor at the Kwara State Command welcomes the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Solomon Arase. He is in the state to meet with his men and also speak to them on more professional ways of carrying out their duties, especially in the aspects of handling evidences and detaining suspects.
I believe that policing, should be placed in such a way that it will be in tandem with international best practices. If you are an investigator, you must be able to assemble sufficient evidence before you start putting people in custody. You must be able to distinguish what is criminal, what is civil, and what is commercial.
He also dwelt on the advantages of community policing.
You cannot police a community except you are able to connect with that community. So community partnership in policing is very, very key. I will expect all divisional police officers, all area commanders, and even the commissioner of police to once in a while assemble all the strategic stakeholders in the states. Try and win the hearts and minds of the people. If you don't win the hearts and minds of the people, if you continue to violate their rights, then they will not support you.
The officers also have some things to say to their boss, as the commissioner enumerates the challenges facing the command.
There is therefore the need for deployment of more personnel so as to cope with emerging security challenges. The command has always been faced with the problem of 1. Inadequate serviceable vehicles, 2. Arms and ammunition, 3. Riot equipment, such as smoke, tear gas, hand grenades, etc., and 4. Lack of armored personnel carriers.
Mr. Arase has since becoming the police airsman, apt on professionalism in the force. What remains to be seen is how much impact this kind of visits and pep talks will have on the attitude of individual officers and rebranding the entire force.
In part 2, after the break, more on the revelation of the Chibok girls' location. Please join us again.